Welcome back to Sips for Change. As always, we're your hosts, Tammy and Martine, here to bring you exciting conversations about making events more planet and people conscious.
Also, welcome to the first episode of our six-part series on sustainable consumer certifications. I'm so excited to say that we're spilling the tea, sustainable sourced, of course, on those eco labels you see on your coffee, clothes, and chocolate. We're talking about certifications that help make sure your purchases are doing good for people and the planet.
Totally. Labels like fairtrade, B Corp, and GOTS are like badges that scream, this product's sustainable. But what do they exactly mean, Martine?
Great question. These certifications are similar to the various ones we've discussed in the past, such as LEED or Green Key, but instead of for event venues, these are for products. These certifications are designed to hold companies accountable to environmental and social standards.
Exactly. And we all know that without them, it's super easy to fall for greenwashing when brands slap eco-friendly on a product with zero proof. A 2023 Frontiers article said that these certifications are crucial for tackling climate change and promoting transparency. But even with them, there are still risks, criticisms, and limitations.
Absolutely. We all know that these labels could help consumers become more aware about the product they are buying, especially since more and more people are trying to be mindful about what's in their products and where it comes from. But they're not perfect because, like Tammy said, there are many challenges around green certifications, such as around implementation and enforcement.
Yes. So, for the first two episodes of this series, we're diving into some of the globally recognized certifications. Of course, every region has also some nationally recognized certifications too, but we'll save those for later episodes.
For all of the certifications discussed in this mini-series, we'll give you the rundown of the good, bad, and ugly behind these labels. We'll break down what they mean, how they work, and what you need to know as a consumer. Ready, Tammy?
Born ready. First up is the Fair Trade certification.
What a great place to start. This one is a biggie. They were founded in 1997 and are regulated by Fairtrade International, a nonprofit that sets global standards for ethical trade based in Bonn, Germany. It is one of the most recognized sustainability labels whose goal is to empower workers and farmers and promote fair pay.
Any product with a fair trade mark that looks like this means that farmers, workers, and businesses have met internationally agreed standards, which have been independently audited and certified. It must ensure farmers and workers in developing countries to get fair wages, safe working conditions, and use sustainable practices.
These standards also require producers to receive a minimum price to cover sustainable production cost and a fair trade premium for community investments. These standards are set through extensive research and stakeholder consultations to guarantee economic viability for producers.
Additionally, these standards are continuously updated to match new realities that farmers face regionally and environmentally. Rigorous standards support farmers and workers to protect their land, health, and livelihoods.
Some of their additional key criteria include no child or forced labor, democratic cooperatives for farmers, and eco-friendly farming that bans harmful pesticides. They cover products like coffee, cocoa, and textiles. Fairtrade International says it's impacted over 2 million farmers and workers globally.
It's the only global sustainability standard where farmers and workers have representation at all levels of governance, including 50% of decision-making power in their General Assembly.
That's huge. That sounds like they really prioritize their farmers and workers to make sure they're really part of the process.
Exactly. Now that we know what it is, what do they do, Martine? How does a company get certified?
It's actually a rigorous process. Companies apply through an independent auditor, Flow Cert, that will audit the entire supply chain, farms, factories, you name it. This includes on site inspections, document reviews, and worker interviews to ensure compliance.
After the on-site inspection, the auditor sends a report to FlowCert. The responsible analyst evaluates the report, checks for any non-compliances with the fair trade standards, and demands corrective measures from the audited party. If no critical non-compliances are found, the audited party initially receives a temporary trading permit. Only when non-compliances have been corrected, Flowster can then make a positive decision and issue a fair trade certificate.
After the initial certification, businesses are audited at least twice more within a 3-year certification cycle. A renewal audit is conducted during the third year, and if the renewal audit is concluded successfully, FlowCert issues a new certificate and the next 3-year certification cycle begins.
In addition to the regular audits, Flowcert conducts unannounced audits at any time if there are indications of additional risk, such as specific allegations, expansion of the organization's certification scope, or product or country-specific risks.
FlowCert offers workers, trade unions, NGOs, private individuals, and certified companies the opportunity to submit complaints about suspected violations of the standards directly and guarantees anonymity. FlowCert ensures that all complaints submitted are processed and assessed and that an appropriate response is given. Depending on the specific case, this can range from an unannounced audit to an inquiry to the accused company or consideration in the subsequent audit.
So now when you see that fair trade logo, you know you're supporting fair pay, sustainable farming from a company that has been audited and is regularly audited. It's a win for communities and the planet.
But like all systems, it's not perfect. It's a start, but it does have limitations. For instance, you might think that if a farmer has a fair trade certificate, they automatically get paid more, but that's not always true. Farmers only get paid when companies choose to buy their products. If demand is low, farmers have to sell at regular market prices.
Additionally, to keep fair trade certificates, farmers have to pay for inspections. These checks are important so that everyone trusts the fair trade label. But for these farmers, these costs can be a huge burden.
Another even bigger issue is that fair trade inspectors usually warn farms before visiting, so farmers may hide problems. Even though fair trade rules say no child labor is not always the case. In 2020, journalists found children working on a fair trade cocoa farm. Some farmers cannot afford to hire adult workers during busy harvest times, so they ask their children to help.
While no system is perfect, having some system in place does help farmers and their communities gain a stronger voice, better pay, and opportunities to improve systems. So when you choose a fair trade product, it's a good way to support these farmers and workers around the world.
Yep, agreed. Knowledge is power. Look for that black and blue fair trade logo and know you're making a difference.
Next, let's talk about 1% for the planet.
This one's so inspiring because it has such a touching origin story. It was officially founded by Patagonia's Yvon Chouinard and Blue Ribbon Fly's Craig Matthews in 2002, but the idea was discussed by them during a fishing trip they took the year prior.
I love that. And what I love even more is their motivation behind it. They realizes that businesses are responsible for their environmental impact and therefore pledge to donate 1% of their annual sales, not profits, sales to environmental organizations.
Exactly. And in the past 23 years, it's become a global movement and has helped to certify over $808 million in donations to environmental causes.
If you think about it, the business model is so simple but very impactful. The businesses sign up and pay for the membership to pledge to donate at least 1% of their annual revenue to approved environmental nonprofits. This can be either in cash or in-kind donations or even employee volunteer time. The focus is on climate change, biodiversity, and conservation. So think protecting forests or the ocean. Every donation is verified to ensure it goes to legitimate groups.
And they actually have three different types of memberships. They have the product line membership, which allows companies to commit to the 1% of revenue from the sales of a specific product or service. The brand level membership, which allows brands or companies that are owned by a larger entity to commit to giving the 1% of the total revenue for all the sales made through that brand. And this also applies to multinational companies who want to commit only the revenue of sales made in specific countries.
Last but not least, there's the full company membership, which commits an entire company to give 1% of the company's total revenue to the 1% for the planet and can be used across all products and channels, unlike the brand and product specific memberships, where that logo can only be used on that product or that brand that is committed to that membership.
Businesses that are interested in these memberships will fill out an interest form on their website, and a membership specialist will reach out to discuss the certification process, which includes making the commitment first.
The commitment process includes paying their dues and signing a membership agreement to commit to the pledge before receiving access to their membership benefits. It typically takes a few days to onboard the new members, and then the membership benefits include immediate access to their global network of over 7,000 environmental partners that they can donate to, and the other 5,200 plus member businesses that are also part of the organization's network. They also receive guidance on a giving strategy and how to build their brand credibility and visibility around this.
From there, the business is expected to get certified within 4 months after the end of their fiscal year by submitting financial reports that document their annual revenue and donation receipt. They're reviewed annually to confirm donations meet the criteria. It's straightforward but strict. Donations must go to vetted environmental partners.
So for consumers, the upside of this is clear, which is that buying from 1% members like Patagonia means that part of your purchase is going to support environmental action.
The downside, it doesn't verify any of the products or supply chain or business practices of the business. Therefore, it doesn't guarantee the product or business itself is sustainable, just that the company is giving back monetarily.
Some critics argue that for larger enterprises, 1% is too low to actually be meaningful in offsetting the environmental harm caused by these big businesses. Some consumers even view this program as a way for companies to gain market visibility and is perceived as a ploy to receive tax benefits without making strategic changes to their business operations.
Tammy, I definitely can see some validity to the argument. This certification does seem very easy to obtain when you compare it to the Fairtrade certification. And it certainly does not encourage businesses to practice circular production or commitment to carbon reduction.
Yeah, from a big picture argument, I think all of those comments have merit. However, looking at the numbers, in 2024, 4,142 environmental organizations received a combined donation of $110 million. Now, imagine if this organization was not in place. That's $110 million that these organizations would have to fundraise or find in grant funding to keep their efforts going.
That's true. It definitely is a great start, but we can always improve.
Of course. And this next certification we're about to discuss does just that. It takes a deeper look at the business operations and makes sure that they are sustainable as a business or as a product.
Yes, let's talk about the B Corp. It's actually one of the most highly regarded certifications in the world. It was founded in 2006 by two friends who discussed the idea during a New Year's celebration the year prior. Then by 2007, B Lab Global, a nonprofit based in Pennsylvania, USA, certified its inaugural class of 19 B Corps.
It looks like these friends are just getting together to start businesses. So, Martine, I think we're on to something, right? Like in a year, hopefully Sips for Change will be huge. Um, but anyway, since then, B Lab has grown across 102 countries, 162 industries, with 10,053 companies certified to date.
Now that's pretty impressive, right? But tell me, what makes a company B Corp worthy?
It's a holistic process. B Lab evaluates companies on five impact areas: governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. They look at the social and environmental performance, transparency, and legal accountability. For example, fair wages, low carbon footprints, and public reporting are all non negotiables.
Now, in comparison to the 1% for the planet, that does sound like a much more rigorous process, right?
Yeah, it's no walk in the park. B Lab has different guidelines for small, medium, large enterprises, categorized by their annual revenue and their employee count. However, they all do have to complete an impact assessment, provide documented proof, and undergo a third-party evaluation. Companies need to score at least 80 out of 200 on the B Lab's assessment in order to even submit their application to request an evaluation. For those interested in the full process, we've linked to their website below that gives you the full scope of the entire process.
I read that in order for B Corps to maintain their status, they must recertify and update the impact assessment every 3 years, and it must be completed at least 6 months prior to their recertification date. There's more details about that in the links below as well.
So for our consumers, here's the tea. B Corp means that a company is making intentional efforts to balance profit and purpose. It is intended to give customers the peace of mind that if you see the B Corp logo, you know the company and product has gone through this in-depth process for verification and its claim to sustainability credibility. It's also globally recognized so that if you're someone who travels or lives in various countries throughout the year, you can reference this logo and it can help you make some mindful purchases.
Yes, it can help and it intends to do so. However, like the others we spoke about today, it's not perfect. There has been many criticisms and investigations into B Lab. Some argue that B Lab allows large companies with histories of environmental and labor issues such as Nespresso, Nestlé in 2022 to achieve certification without addressing core problems, diluting the label's credibility.
Yes, and the recent certification of the fast fashion brand Princess Polly brings the skepticism back onto B Lab again this year. It's caused other companies like Dr. Bronner's, which is a traditionally a high scoring B Corp, to leave the certification this year, claiming that the certification enables greenwashing and purpose washing by multinationals.
However, one of key limitations to note about B Corp is that like 1% for the planet, it's not product specific. It doesn't offer guidelines on how sustainable a product is. It holistically evaluates the business practices which sometimes may or may not influence the sustainability of their products.
In these cases, it is true that the system is flawed, but B Lab as an entity is trying to be proactive about this. The Nespresso certification revealed weaknesses in their process, and in response, B Lab has done a thorough review of its standards and processes to ensure value. In our links below, you can find a little bit more details about how they developed those said standards. Going back to the case of Nespresso, their certification process also brought about labor practice violations in its supply chain to light, forcing the company to have to recognize and begin repairing them. This wouldn't have been discovered as quickly if it wasn't for this certification process.
Right. And as for the recent case of Princess Polly, According to a recent article I read, the company claims the use of certified lower impact materials, including recycled polyester and organic cotton, for 30% of its new arrivals. And it's also working toward more ethical sourcing, cutting waste, and getting suppliers to set environmental goals. It has policies for paid family leave and other employee forward programs.
So, despite the fact that fast fashion as a product and practice is against the very concept of eco-friendly and sustainable consumerism, according to the B Corp certification standards, based on their claims, their business practices does help them meet their certification standards.
And there may not be a right or wrong answer to whether or not B Corp is truly reliable or not, because like everything else, there can always be areas of improvement. But as we mentioned earlier, having these efforts and systems in place can be argued as better than having nothing at all.
That's right. Ultimately, the responsibility is up to the consumer to do their homework. These logos can help guide you in the right direction, but if you really want to make sure if you're purchasing something that is indeed sustainable, then you have to spend some time to do a little bit more research.
It's a lot of work. We know. We probably don't want to do it for everything, but sometimes it matters. Like when you're purchasing baby products, I'm sure we all want the best for our kids, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of a lot of work, this was a long episode and we gave you so much information.
Right. As event planners, shoppers, or just eco curious folks, choosing certified products and doing your research means you're voting for a better world with your wallet.
Absolutely. Next episode, we're diving into a few more global certifications and want to know how these labels could shape your shopping lists. Make sure to stay tuned.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Until next time, keep making conscious choices one sip at a time.
Bye.